As much as I love the mountains and the desert, the Oregon coast remains my favorite part of the state. Unfortunately, dominated by private land and other development border to border, it's not particularly conducive to the type of backcountry excursions I normally share on this channel. That doesn't mean there isn't still some exploring to be done. In this episode, I'm going to poke up some coastal backroads I've never driven, enjoy the diverse natural beauty where the land meets the sea, and check out some historical locations. Plus, boats. Highway 101 parallels the Oregon coast for 363 miles from California to Washington, with many stretches closely following the shoreline, in places yielding a dramatically scenic drive. In other areas, however, the highway veers miles inland, so that some areas of the coast can only be accessed by small secondary roads, and some segments of coastline remain entirely inaccessible by vehicle. My countless drives up and down Highway 101 over the course of my entire life have often involved getting to a specific destination on a specific schedule, and I have admittedly bypassed many of the side roads winding through the dense temperate rainforest towards the ocean. Today, I am once again headed to a family event on the southern Oregon coast, but I've given myself time to actually do some exploring along the way and see some places I've never been before. The geological makeup of Oregon's striking coastline is diverse. Basalt cliffs and headlands, formed from ancient volcanic lava flows, contrast with the softer sandstone formations, which are the result of millions of years of marine sediment deposits. Over time, ocean waves have sculpted these rocks into sea stacks, caves, arches, and surreal swirls of sandstone.
It's in the mid-90s in Eugene today. A lot of times in the summer when it's hot inland, it creates this weather pattern that forms this fog right along the coast. So while I'm visiting some really beautiful, dramatic coastline, I can't see a lot of it because it's foggy.
That is, however, one of the many reasons I love to be at the Oregon coast. It is never, ever truly hot here. It's 95 degrees in Eugene today, but a damp mid-60s here along the beach. Low-pressure zones created by the inland heat pull the chilly, moist air off the Pacific, which condenses into this fog we often find here in the summer. And it doesn't bother me a bit.
I will take cool, foggy weather at the coast over heat in the valley any day.
Another thing I love about the Oregon coast is that despite the abundance of travel trailers and sprinter vans clogging the highway, there is solitude to be found on the beaches, especially when you get a ways off the beaten path like this. Even beaches right along the highway are never truly crowded, nothing like the shock I received the first time I visited a beach along the Mediterranean in France. Out here, there's often little more than a few hazy apparitions materializing out of the mist, though sometimes you get a little unlucky and someone with a metal detector walks unexpectedly into the serene scene you were trying to shoot. The Oklahoma branch of my family is here visiting, and we're taking advantage of a late afternoon break in the fog. My niece's daughter is experiencing a sandy beach for the first time in her life, and she certainly seems to be enjoying it. One of my stops on the way here was a side trip out to a fairly remote lighthouse. This lighthouse dates all the way back to 1870, making it the oldest standing lighthouse in Oregon.
So these capes that jut out into the Pacific Ocean, you know, there can be fog out here all year long, anytime, day or night. So it's no surprise they've built these lighthouses out here. Well, in all my years of living in Oregon, and it has been a lot of years, I have never actually been to visit this lighthouse. This is really a cool, pretty little lighthouse out here on this point. Now, some of the lighthouses in Oregon are still actually functioning. It looks like this one does not have an operational light.
I have since found out that the motor, which normally turns the light, is currently undergoing repairs, so some temporary beacons are lighting the cape for the moment. A curtain has been drawn around the massive Fresnel lens that projects the beam of light out to sea, because when it's not continually in motion, it magnifies the sun's rays and overheats the lens and everything else inside the top of the lighthouse.
I don't know all that much about the lighthouses in Oregon, but my friend Matt Cook, who also has a YouTube channel, and I wouldn't call him a YouTuber, I would call him a filmmaker. He makes amazing documentaries about various topics all around Oregon. A couple of years ago, he made a great film all about the lighthouses along the Oregon coast. I would highly recommend giving it a watch, and I will put a link to that in the description below. At a glance, this looks like just another one of the many sort of rocky headlands that jut out into the Pacific Ocean along this stretch of the coast. But if you pause and look a little more carefully, you start to realize there are these road cuts everywhere out on this headland, and you can see these flat spots, these landings that look like they would have been someplace for a building to be. So as it turns out, there was actually an industrial development out here on this headland.
Originally developed by gold miners all the way back in 1850, this site has served a number of purposes over the years. In the 19th century, it was used as a shipping port for bark stripped from nearby tan oak trees, which was used for leather making by tanneries down the California coast. In the 1950s, a large dock was built on the southern side of the headland to load ships with raw Douglas fir timber logged from the hills just inland. All that remains of the dock are these heavy steel cables embedded deep into the rock. The road cuts, landings, and a handful of metal relics are the only signs of the 100-year industrial history of this location. Even with most of the history erased by time and nature, this is still a unique and eye-catching area of natural beauty.
One of the most remarkable elements of it is that right there. So let's go take a look at that.
This sea cave burrows through a massive swath of rock, exposed by its collapsed roof at the inland end of the cave, where the surf washes up on its tiny subterranean beach. In the late 50s and throughout the 60s, this site also served as a quarry, with some of the extracted rock used to repair the south jetty along the Rogue River at Gold Beach. The mouth of the Rogue, where it meets the Pacific, is often teeming with boats trolling for Chinook and coho salmon headed upstream to spawn. My longtime viewers have certainly seen me and my kids on this boat right here, trying to haul in some of that fish. The fog is coming and going this afternoon, but watching from the North Jetty for a while, it's looking like a decent day on the river. I'll be out there with my sister and nephew later this weekend. Most of Oregon's coastal towns are small, working-class communities. Marinas are humble but functional, often a mix of commercial fishing boats, fishing guides, and private recreational craft, with fish processing plants often found nearby. This marina in Charleston, Oregon, is also home to the U.S. Coast Guard's Station Coos Bay. It's finally our turn to get out on the boat.
Morning, John.
Morning.
I'm heading out this morning with my sister Allison, my nephew Clay, and his girlfriend Becca. It's a Sunday, and there are a lot of boats out here plying the waters.
That's close quarters.
Eventually, we all get the opportunity to bring in fish.
Well, he's a little marred up, isn't he?
Becca has hooked a battle-scarred native coho, which we have to release. Wild Chinook is okay to keep, but for coho, also known as silver salmon, only hatchery fish can be harvested. I've only managed to land a jack, a juvenile salmon swimming upstream early that will not actually spawn. While it's a lot less fish in the freezer than an adult salmon, the more delicate meat definitely delivers a delicious dish. My dad has joined us for the afternoon, and he makes the final catch for the day.
Alright, quit showing off now.
While I've somehow managed to catch everyone with serious expressions, we are in fact having a great time out here. My sister did a better job of capturing the mood on the boat. Thanks, John, for another fun and productive day on the river. The Oregon coast offers a unique blend of wild scenic beauty, history, cozy port towns, and temperate weather. This trip reminded me that despite my countless visits over the decades, there are still more discoveries to be made, and I'll absolutely be back over here countless more times in the coming decades. With summer drawing to a close, new desert and mountain adventures are coming very soon. And if you made it all the way through this one, thank you very much for watching. I've stopped at a small general store to buy a beverage. I had to pay with a 20, but they had no problem giving me change.
Thank you.